Green compliant wheels don't fit with a whole lot of color schemes. Let's make them black. The materials you'll need for this tutorial are a jug of distilled water, a black saucepan, a stove, a bottle of RIT Dymor synthetic black dye, a glass measuring cup that can measure at least 50 milliliters, and some kind of disposable stirring stick. Try to use glass or an already black container for anything that will be touching the dye, as the dye will stain certain plastics, ceramics, and especially wood. Also note that anything besides the black Dymor variant of the RIT synthetic dye will not dye your wheels properly. For example, red Dymor will not turn your wheels the color you expect, and regular black RIT synthetic dye will not turn your wheels fully black. If your compliant wheels have seen a lot of use, it's a good idea to clean them before beginning the dyeing process. Isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel will do a pretty good job of this if you rinse the wheel in water after you're done. I've heard hand sanitizer also works. Prep your dyeing setup by measuring out 2 cups of distilled water and pouring it into the empty saucepan. Measure out around 50 milliliters of RIT Dymor dye and pour it into the measuring cup. I used around 100 milliliters in this setup, but it turned out to be a bit overkill. The setup shouldn't vary too much if you're dyeing something like 4 wheels. You'll just need less passes. Heat the water until it's almost boiling, then take the pan off, dump the dye in, and pop your wheels in. Let that sit for about 15 minutes. Make sure to stir intermittently. You can take the wheels out with the same stirring stick once the timer is up. As you can see, the wheels turned out perfectly on the first pass, most likely because of the excess of dye I added. If you use the lower amount of dye, you should need a couple passes to get the wheels looking fully black. I did 2 more passes while dyeing these wheels to mimic the procedure if you had used a more reasonable amount of dye. After a quick rinse, the saucepan looks like it has minimal staining. Make sure to immediately wipe off any drops of dye that get on counters or stovetops though, or else they may stain. After the wheels were fully dyed, I put them on hooks to dry. However, after they finished drying, I found this process was probably unnecessary. The wheels had to be washed after they finished drying, and the wheels responded fine to being dried off on paper towels anyway. The initial drying step can probably be skipped. If you are going to hang them, make sure to wash them first. That's about it. These wheels turned out great, and they don't leave any residue on the stones. I'll be leaving a link to the document this process was based off of in the description. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.